Type 1. Before we get into every connector, one thing explains all of them, and it's that there are only two ways to put energy into an electric car, AC and DC. Batteries only accept DC, so with AC charging a converter inside, the car handles that conversion, and because that converter is physically small, AC charging stays slow. Switch to DC, and the station does the converting instead, sending power straight to the battery. That difference is why a highway charger stands about the size of a refrigerator, while a home charger fits in a shoebox. Every connector here is an AC plug, a DC plug, or both, and Type 1 is where AC started. Officially, it carries the name SAE J1772, pronounced J1772. California's Air Resources Board picked a rectangular Avcon connector back in 2001 that handled 6.6 kilowatts and looked like something you'd plug a forklift into. 7 years later, a round Yazaki design replaced it, and that's the shape North America and Japan still use. 5 pins. 2 carry power, 1 is earth, and 2 handle communication. The control pilot runs a constant conversation between charger and car, checking how many amps are available, whether both sides are ready, whether to keep going or stop. Its partner, the proximity pilot, wires into the button on the handle, so pressing that button changes the resistance and the car cuts current before the metal ever separates. That's the reason unplugging an EV doesn't produce an arc flash. One plug covers both charging levels. Level 1 runs J1772 off a 120-volt household outlet at roughly 1.4 kilowatts, adding 3 to 5 miles of range per hour. It needs no installation at all because the outlet is already in the wall. Level 2 uses the identical connector on 240 volts, where the spec allows 19.2 kilowatts. Almost nobody wires 80 amps into a garage though, so most people see 7 to 11 kilowatts or 25 to 30 miles per hour. Type 2. It's also called Mennekes, pronounced Mennekes, after the German company that designed it in 2009. Europe looked at Type 1 and found one problem, which was that 5 pins isn't enough. Type 2 carries 7, and the extra ones exist for 3-phase power, meaning 3 separate live wires instead of 1. Most European homes already have it, and 3-phase pushes roughly 3 times the energy through a cable of the same thickness. 22 kilowatts is what that buys you at a routine European AC charge point, while a North American one stops around 11. Same technology, different wiring in the walls. Public charging looks different in Europe because of it. Most AC posts over there are just a socket, so you bring your own cable, which is annoying to carry in the boot. The payoff is that a single post serves every car ever built, and nobody can cut the cable off because there isn't one. Type 3. It also goes by Scame, and this is the one nobody remembers. In the early 2000s, a French and Italian group called the EV Plug Alliance pushed Type 3 as the European standard instead, and safety was the selling point. Spring-loaded shutters covered the contacts so nobody could touch a live pin, which let the Alliance argue that Type 2, with its exposed contacts, was dangerous. The argument wasn't stupid either. French and Italian codes required shutters on domestic sockets, so on paper, Type 2 couldn't legally go into a home in either country. Scame, Legrand, and Schneider Electric all stood behind it. Europe standardized on Type 2 anyway, and Type 3 then vanished so completely that most EV drivers today have never seen one. The last posts in France and Italy are getting swapped out now. Of every connector on this list, it's the only one that lost on politics rather than physics. CHAdeMO. The name is pronounced CHAdeMO. TEPCO launched it in March 2010 alongside Nissan, Mitsubishi, Toyota, and Subaru, making it the first DC fast charging standard anyone actually deployed. The name is the best part. It shortens charge to move, but it also puns on the Japanese phrase CHAdeMO ikaga desu ka, which means how about a cup of tea, as in that's how long the charge takes. 50 kilowatts of power, named after a tea break. For most of the 2000s and 10s, if a highway fast charger existed, it ran CHAdeMO. The original Nissan Leaf, the Mitsubishi i-MiEV, pronounced i-MiEV, and the Kia Soul EV all charge this way. CHAdeMO also arrived first at bidirectional charging, powering a house from a car battery years before anyone else offered it. The problem was the shape. CHAdeMO occupies a completely separate port, so a car needed 2 openings in the bodywork, while Europe and America were busy designing plugs that did both jobs through one. 2018 is roughly where CHAdeMO peaked. The symbolic ending arrived with the 2026 Nissan Leaf, the car that made the standard famous, dropping it for NACS. Standards usually die from a competitor. This one got abandoned by its own founder. The plugs themselves haven't vanished yet. Plenty of older DC sites still carry a CHAdeMO cable, but almost nothing being built now includes one. The network doesn't collapse, it just quietly stops growing while everything around it keeps going. Quick question, what's actually on your car right now? Type 1, Type 2, or are you still out here representing CHAdeMO? Drop it in the comments, and if this is finally making the plug situation make sense, hit the like button. It genuinely helps the channel. CCS1. The name reads as CCS1 and stands for Combined Charging System, Combo 1, which is a literal description. Take a Type 1 plug, add 2 large DC pins directly underneath, and you get one port that does both jobs, AC on top and DC below. 7 automakers agreed on it in late 2011, specifically to dodge the 2-hole problem CHAdeMO created. Those 7 were Audi, BMW, Daimler, Ford, GM, Porsche, and Volkswagen, and the first cars reached customers in 2013. Technically, the thing is excellent. It scales to 350 kilowatts, and every North American network supports it. CCS also signals over the power line itself rather than the separate CAN bus CHAdeMO used, which is what makes automatic authentication straightforward on this hardware. One design detail deserves a mention, which is that the DC half is optional. A plain J1772 cable slots straight into the top of a CCS1 port and works perfectly, so the car carries one inlet and the charger brings whichever half it needs. The problem is size. A CCS1 plug takes 2 hands, and a cable rated for 350 kilowatts runs thick, heavy, and stiffens in the cold. That ergonomic detail ended up mattering far more than anyone in those 2011 meetings expected, because a competitor turned up with a plug you can hold in 3 fingers. CCS2. This one applies the same idea to Europe, taking a Type 2 plug and adding 2 DC pins below it. Inheriting Type 2's 7 pins means CCS2 carries 3-phase AC through the same port, while handling the full 350 kilowatts on DC. One physical port covers everything from a 2.3 kilowatt garage socket up to a 350 kilowatt Ionity stall, which makes it the most complete design on this list. Europe has made sure it stays that way. EU rules now require new public DC chargers to run CCS2 with the ISO 15118 standard. That's the protocol behind plug and charge, where the car and the cable authenticate each other and you never touch an app or a card. The result is one connector and effectively no format war. Every car sold in Europe, from a Dacia Spring to a Taycan, plugs into the same shape. NACS. The name is pronounced NACS, short for North American Charging Standard. Officially, it's SAEJ 3400, pronounced J3400, and originally it was just the Tesla connector. Tesla built its own because in 2012, nothing on the market did the job. 5 pins, and the trick is that the 2 power pins pull double duty with the same contacts carrying AC and DC. Nothing bolts on underneath for DC, which is why the whole plug measures roughly the size of a marker pen and weighs a fraction of CCS. November 2022 is when Tesla published the design, renamed it the North American Charging Standard, and invited everyone to use it. For 6 months, nothing happened. Ford signed on in May 2023, GM followed within 2 weeks, and practically every automaker selling EVs in the US did the same. SAE turned it into J3400 in December 2023 and elevated it to a recommended practice in September 2024. The spec covers 1000 volts and 500 amps, and Tesla's V4 superchargers have started delivering the full 500 kilowatts. The catch is how slowly the physical transition moves. Every brand has committed, yet only a minority of models on sale carry a native NACS port. The rest still ship CCS1 with an adapter in the boot. Publicly funded chargers have to serve both shapes, so the dual cable dispenser became the standard build for the transition years, which means the plug that won by being smaller and simpler produced for now stations carrying twice the hardware. GBT. It's China's national standard, and the one almost nobody outside China ever sees, despite covering the largest EV market on Earth. Like CHAdeMO, it splits into two separate connectors, one AC and one DC. The AC plug looks like a Type 2 turned inside out because the male and female halves swap sides compared to the European version. They belong to the same visual family and remain completely incompatible. Dating from 2015, the DC side talks over a CAN bus, the same choice CHAdeMO made. That decision is part of why the next version needed a whole new control circuit instead of a firmware update. And that next version is the interesting part, because in 2023, China released an updated GBT designed for up to 1.2 megawatts. BYD then built it. Its Megawatt flash charging delivers 1,000 kilowatts through two liquid-cooled plugs working at the same time, and a second generation pushes the current higher still. When one connector can't carry the current, the solution was apparently to just use two of them. BYD launched that hardware alongside its Super E platform, and more than 500 of the stations already stand installed across more than 200 Chinese cities. Nobody else on this list is deploying Megawatt charging for passenger cars at that pace, which is the part worth sitting with. Which is a strange result for a standard the rest of the world never adopted. NACS. It stands for Megawatt Charging System, and it's the only connector here that isn't built for a car. Electric trucks broke the math. A Class 8 semi carries so much battery that a 350 kilowatt charger would eat an entire mandatory rest break and still not finish the job. SAE published the J3271 spec in March 2025, with the international version following in February 2026. What it allows is 1,250 volts, 3,000 amps, and 3.75 megawatts. 3,000 amps is roughly what a small neighborhood draws. The cable runs liquid-cooled because otherwise it would cook itself. Instead of a pistol grip, the connector takes the form of a flat rectangular block with a mechanical latch, since at that weight, nobody holds it in place by hand. Semis aren't the only target either. The same connector is aimed at city and intercity buses, ships plugging in at port, and mining and construction machinery. Everything too heavy for a car plug to serve. Scania and Volvo have MCS trucks arriving through 2026. It's the one connector here you'll never touch, and the one deciding whether electric freight works at all. So which one do you actually need? North America runs NACS, the standard now, so your next car will have it built in, and until then, you carry an adapter. Europe means CCS2, mandated and installed everywhere. China stays on GB/T, now rated for megawatt charging. And if your car still runs CHAdeMO, check the routes you actually drive, because that network shrinks every year. And that's every EV charging connector, from a plug named after a cup of tea to a 3,000 amp cable that needs its own cooling system. Every one of them exists because someone decided the previous plug wasn't good enough. Which connector is on your car, and has one of these ever left you at a station that physically wouldn't connect? Drop it in the comments and hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one.